Wait a minute. This isn't Kansas? Tornado drivers? Well, it appears I've jumped into a land of high fantasy. Well, I guess we can look around for a while I wait for my next ride. Unfortunately, Ruby sneakers don't work quite like Ruby slippers. Now, you're probably familiar with Hogwarts, Narnia, and the Land of Oz. High fantasy is full of magic, surprise, and wonder. These stories are set in imaginary worlds or realms of adventure that are separate from the real world. If you pay close attention, you'll find that the imaginary settings are influenced by myths and legends and include elaborate details of society, history, family trees, geographic location, population, religion, customs, and traditions. But you'll also find that they all have their own distinct features, like Yellow Brick Road or Wonderland. Whoa. The world as we know it is the primary world, while the imaginary place created by the author is known as the secondary world. Authors of high fantasy use 3 different approaches when creating their settings. One approach sets the story exclusively in the secondary world. Characters don't even reference or acknowledge the real world. An example of this would be Middle-earth in The Hobbit. A second approach that authors use creates a contrast between the primary and the secondary worlds. Characters in these parallel worlds have little contact and may or may not be aware of one another at all. The author of the Harry Potter series used this approach by creating a train station that is not accessible to humans living in the primary world, but allows Harry to travel back and forth between the two. Look here. Okay, I'll bite. Wonder what's in here. Hey guys, what's going on? Anybody know a shortcut to Topeka? Well, this brings up our third approach used in high fantasy, that the secondary world is, in some way, a part of the primary world. Now this is usually accomplished by entering a portal that acts as a revolving door between the two worlds. Characters in the primary world are aware of the secondary world and vice versa, and can usually go back and forth between them. The rabbit hole acts as a portal between Alice's real world and the secondary wonderland into which she falls, just as Lucy, Peter, Susan, and Edmund enter the mystical land of Narnia through the wardrobe. Wow, looks like there's some interesting characters living in here. The characters in high fantasy have traits that are very unique to this type of story. Just like Dorothy, Alice, Frodo, and Harry, the main character is the hero or protagonist of the story. He or she is often very young and innocent when the story begins, but becomes more mature as the story goes on. The hero or heroine is in pursuit of a major goal that is to be accomplished by the end of the story. Often, the character lacks important information about his or her birth and seeks to correct a wrong, all while discovering his or her own identity. The protagonist triumphs over evil with the help of magic, sorcery, and the supernatural. By accomplishing his or her quest, whether that's finding a way back home, locating a magical ring, or obtaining a license of wizardry, the character achieves a sense of self-discovery. I know, ignore the man behind the curtain. But I really wonder what's back there. What's fun about high fantasy is that the heroes usually have a team of companions to help them on their journey. A team can often include a wizard or magician, someone with strong leadership qualities, and yet another character with great physical strength. There are several common themes found in high fantasy. The idea that characters grow throughout their journey is one example. Characters become more confident, realizing what they're good at, and what they can or cannot do, and what makes them special as individuals. The names in high fantasy often change as the character grows. This is a common theme that symbolizes the progression of maturity that the character experiences. Names are very powerful, and many stories include an important naming event in which the characters are given their true or sacred name. The true name and identity of the hero is generally known only by his trusted friends. Authors put a lot of effort into naming the characters in high fantasy, often hinting at their appearances, personalities, and actions, or by incorporating references to myths or other languages. Perhaps you remember Harry's nemesis, the Malfoy family, whose last name translates to something like bad faith. Or Mad-Eye Moody, the Hogwarts faculty member who has one eye that spins around. The battle between good and evil, or moral and ethical decision-making, are frequent themes. The protagonist is faced with challenges and obstacles along their quest that force him or her to conquer evil and make choices that shed light on moral issues. Characters take on these battles for a specific purpose. Perhaps they may be finding the missing heir, recognizing a prince or princess in disguise, or achieving utopia under the rule of a king whose coming has been foretold. Definitely no wizards back there. Well, that's about it for high fantasy. Tales of quests and conflict, magic and wizardry, and coming of age. Like all fantasy, high fantasy involves people, places, or events that could not occur in the real world. High fantasy can develop your imagination by causing you to think of alternative ways of life, entertain new ideas, and dream of strange new worlds. Take your own journey to the nearest library and check out high fantasy in the fiction section. Ask your librarian if you can't find your way. Well, here's my ride!